My name's Amanda Keller, and I aged out of youth protection when I was 18, and I had spent the better part of my adolescence in care. So I was in care for 5 years. I went through 5 different placements, and it was a very difficult experience. And then abruptly at 18, I had no support system. So I was fortunate in that I had completed secondary and I went straight to university. And as a result, like I had a place to live most of the time, but I did find myself homeless at breaks my first 2 years studying in my undergraduate program, and that was a difficult experience. And I knew nobody that was like me that was in school.
Right.
And so as I got a little bit older and started connecting with other people that were like me, we decided to form an organization. Care Jeunesse really started because I was on the board of Youth in Care Canada, and I came to be aware that there had never been a network in Quebec province. And so that part of that was a question, well, why? Like, it's not that we have less money than Ontario or BC. It's that for whatever reason, we haven't been able to organize ourselves. And I think that in Quebec, there's a few barriers that were important. And so one of them is the language. So a lot of the youth and care networks in North America are based around English. And there's two very different services in Quebec. So there's the English-speaking services and the French-speaking services, and there's the bureaucracy between the two. Mm-hmm. So it was a bit hard to organize. But also, there's like a language transfer issue. There's the two different bureaucracies, and then there's also that in the other provinces across Canada, except for Ontario very recently, but there's always been an advocate's office. So a youth advocate actually in all the other provinces has a purse string where they can give money to projects like ours. In Quebec, we don't have that because we have something called the Commission des droits de la personne et de la jeunesse, and they don't have funding for projects like ours. And so as a result, it's a little bit more difficult to get funding to have a stable base for an organization. Mm-hmm. But basically, it was just a bunch of youth that had been in youth protection, all mostly in our 20s, that got together and said, we need to have services here in Quebec. And many of us actually work in the youth protection sector. Right. And so we all got together and decided to create an organization. And we had no experience in community organizing or business or accounting or law. And we got together, and over time we really solidified, and we now largely know what we're doing. Care Jeunesse is a project I've been working on really for the better part of the last decade. But we only registered officially as an organization in 2015. Care Jeunesse was designed for youth from care by alumni of care to really do a few things, combining a few things together. So it's direct support from someone who understands the experience of having had aged out of care. And so it provides a bit of mentorship. And then the other thing that Care Jeunesse does is that we advocate for change within the system itself. And we know most people who've been in youth protection had something happen that was very difficult. And myself would be included in that experience. And some of those things are unavoidable, like the difficulty in getting removed from your house. It's a very difficult experience, but does it have to be with a trash bag, as an example? And so one of the things that's very frustrating for youth as they're getting ripped out of their house is that they, like, a social worker will come to their house and they'll give them a couple of trash bags, tell them to fill up their stuff into the trash bags, and that's how they transport their things. Well, Care Jeunesse doesn't want that to happen, and so one of the projects that Care Jeunesse has developed is really trying to help youth so that we give youth that are entering into the system and youth that are leaving the system as much as possible suitcases so that they can carry their belongings in dignity. We might be able to provide you with some supports that you need now. And so if you're looking for where can you find housing, if you find yourself disrupted in the services and what you're being provided, you might get access to services through us. And we don't actually provide those services directly, but we might be able to provide you with a referral to what you need. And then the other reason is because that together we're stronger. And so we're stronger in that we provide each other support, but we're also stronger because when we collectively organize, politicians have to listen to us, the government has to listen to us, youth protection has to listen to us. And so we've been fighting and meeting with people in upper level administration of youth protection to try to solidify the services that are being provided since the mergers. And we know that there have been issues with funding. There's been issues with the supports that staff are getting, and so as someone who has been in care and has an organization, governments listen. And so if you have something to say, if you have something that you're angry about, you could come to Care Jeunesse just in anger and say, I'm so mad at my experience. And firstly, we're going to believe you. And then secondly, we're going to try to connect you to the supports that you need. Mm-hmm. And what we do is that we take youth and we give them a voice and we give them support, and then we collectively advocate for change. And so the reason that someone would want to come to us, some people are going to come to us because they need support and they don't have any that fits their profile right now. But for other people, they're going to come to us because they don't want what happened to them to happen to other children. And so there is a place for people that need support, and there's also a place for people that want to support others, and there's a place for people that want to collectively make change.
What would it have been like for you? What impact would Care Jeunesse have had for you if it had existed when you were leaving care?
So I don't know if I would have been as precarious if Care Jeunesse had existed when I left care. I'm not sure if I would have had periods of homelessness if I could have been connected to resources where I could have had stable 12-month-a-year housing. I didn't know how to advocate for myself to be able to live off campus. I didn't know how to get supports. I wasn't sure, should I go to a homeless shelter or not? Like, am I actually a homeless person if I'm in college? Like, it's all those sorts of things that if I could have had somebody come up and say to me, of course, go here, or this place is just for people that are exactly like you, I might have gotten the support I needed. And I probably wouldn't have also felt so alone, because at the time I was living in a dorm, and I was living with a girl whose family was very close by. I want to say they lived about an hour and a half away. And they would come down every weekend to visit her and send her care packages every week during the week, which couldn't have been a more different experience, where I had nobody visit me. I had nobody send me care packages. I was living off of like a non-existent budget, and I felt very alone my first year in school and my first year out of the system. And so I think that loneliness would have definitely been mediated. So I think I would say that they need to be connected to people that are going to be consistent in their life. I think that youth protection need to recognize the power, I think, of love. A lot of times when I hear about issues within youth protection and people wondering, why do you struggle? When I first went into care, I didn't like myself. I didn't think I was likable. It was my staff that taught me I was likable. And I think that sometimes that gets missed in the equation, because if a young person doesn't like themselves, if they don't know that they're likable, they're not going to see a future for themselves, and it's certainly not going to be positive. And I think that while we can hire staff and we can hire foster parents, if there's a missing part of youth protection, it's that you can't hire love, but every child and young adult needs love. And so it's a matter of how can we make sure that we're connecting youth within the community and within services that are going to surround, support, love, and empower them. Mm-hmm. I think it's the common trauma. It's the common having to navigate. Like, some people don't have parents, and then some people have parents that are maybe not able to provide them with emotional or financial support. And so it's like, how do you navigate having a dysfunctional family? Or, you know, even when you're 19 and 20 and you meet people, they often want to know what your parents do, what side of town you're from, like really normal conversations. And you have to decide as an alumni of care, are you going to lie to make it more palatable for other people? Or are you going to tell the truth and make everybody uncomfortable? And the nice thing about Care Jeunesse is that nobody is going to judge you, regardless of what you've been doing. Whether you've been in sex work or whether you're working on your PhD, we don't care. We want to see everybody where they're at, and we know there's a variety of experiences, there's a variety of abilities, there's a variety of sexualities, and there's a variety of ethnicities, and everybody is welcome. Everybody's treated as an equal. Nobody's judged. We really need more people, because the more people we have, the more power that we have, because the larger our organization, the more diverse our representation, the better that the government is going to listen to us, the more that we're going to be able to help other youth, the larger the organization is going to grow. And so I would really just encourage other young people, if this at all appeals to them, to come out to some of our events, see what it is that we do, email us if they have a question about a resource that they might need that we can probably help connect them to, and from that we'll grow. We also really need board members. So in the next year we're going to be like putting a call out for board of directors. And so young people who've been in care that are maybe a little bit more stable, because the board completely controls the organization, and they have to be a very solid base. So if you're at a point where you're starting to work, you're finishing your school, you want to have something interesting on your CV, but you can really make it reliably to meetings, think about applying to join our board. Care Jeunesse is increasingly involved in research projects, and when we have research projects going on, there's the opportunity to be paid. And so it's not that often yet, but this year, as an example, we had a research project where youth were getting paid $35 an hour just to come down and share their experiences. And so if you see that we're posting on Facebook some sort of opportunity like that, it's totally legit. We're not selling your data. We're not going to be harassing you if you sign up to do that with us. And at the end of the day, you can walk away with a good chunk of change for your pocket to go do whatever it is that you need to do. And there's also that possibility that if the experience was good enough for the research community, they're going to come back and they're going to ask us to do it again, and you can get paid again. So we really would love if people sign up on Facebook, follow our page, come out to our activities when we have them. And if you see something that's compelling to you, like if you want to reform youth protection, one way to do that is with research, because if we get information about your experience and what could have been better for you, we might be able to reform that through research as well as through policy.
Oh, that's amazing.